All right, this video is going to cover how to replace the actual vent wing seal using a Type 3 seal from ISP West. But before we start, I want to talk about vent wings and what you should check for and look for prior to starting your rebuild. And there's a few things to consider. The first is it the right year for your car? A lot of people buy a project car where the regulators are in one box, the vent wings are in another, the door glass is in a third box, and when you go to put this puzzle back together, you want to make sure you have the right pieces. There's a couple year differences between the frames. Overall, they're mostly the same, but definitely make sure you have the right one for your car. We can always help you out with that. Number two, does it actually work? And are there things broken or missing or busted? You know, is your vent wing straight? Is it actually, able to go back in the car? These are things to consider before you just dive into a rebuild, and when you go to put it back in the car, you find out that something's wrong. So always double check the frame is in okay condition. And before I dive into this one, I want to say, lastly, how far do you want to go with your rebuild? Is it just going to be your daily driver where you just really need the seals replaced? That's one thing. Is it a full-blown restoration where you really want to make sure you're re-chroming this, you're replacing this seal in between the glass and the frame, you want to replace this latch, you want to, re-anodize this and polish it out, paint your frame? These are all things to consider. So think about this before you dive in. This particular vent wing, I'm not going to do a full rebuild on this. Again, this is just going to be the seal here. And I'd really like to point out some things on this because it's not in the best shape, but it's going to do the trick for this video. So again, tab here, totally bent. It's missing a tab here to mount this. The latch itself is pretty bad. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to be replacing this seal. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to drill out this rivet here. I'm going to pull the glass out, and I'm going to strip this down of all the rubber and bits off it. And basically it'll be a nice clean frame, clean enough for this video, and I'll go over how to replace this seal using one of our vent wing seals. Okay, now that we have our frame taken apart, and to give you a little backstory, all I really did was drill out this rivet here, and I pulled the glass out, and I pulled the seals out. I removed the vent wing seal, and I removed the flap seal. This guy can be really tricky here. I really recommend some tools. You don't want to mark up the frame, but you really need to make sure you get everything out. And I cleaned it up a little bit. I didn't do too much. I just basically washed it off and used some simple green to clean it up. And I think this should be okay for what I need it to do. So first and foremost, let's talk about what you want to do here. So again, if you're going to replace the seal in here or replace this latch, then the glass needs to come out. And once the glass is out, you'll have access to the actual latch itself. You can see the two rivets here. And if you need to make any other repairs, you'll have to get the glass out. But if you're not going that far, I would say you're probably okay to leave this. If it's in okay condition, you probably just leave this alone. It just depends how far you want to go. So for our flap seal, this is the flap seal. That's what it looks like. If I hold it up here, you can see it has, this is a piece that fits into the frame, and this is what your glass seals against. So in order to install this, it basically fits right in this channel here. And if I hold this close, hopefully you can see this channel, but it fits right basically into here. Oh, into here like this. And first and foremost, you want to make sure that this guy has a nice cut on it. So you want to match, basically want to give it a nice angle here, but nothing too crazy, right? So, it's got some angle on it. We're going to put this right in here like this. We're going to make sure this side is in. I can use some tools here to push this guy in. All right, so once you have that in, you want to just kind of slide that part that you cut up. And it's really important to make sure that you keep this in the channel, right? So once you have this, you just kind of work this lip under. And before we get too far, let's just make sure we cut this guy. It's got to sit, you want to sit in this channel here, so you want to cut it like here, right at the bottom, just a little bit. I think that'll be okay. We can always just push it up a little bit. All right, let's make sure we're still going into the channel down here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cut it just a little bit more. All right. And this guy, I'm just going to shove down here. I'm going to make sure that this guy, this end is in. All right, so there we have our flap seal. Looks pretty good. This is what your edge of your glass sits against, right here. All right, now let's get to the actual vent wing seal. And before I go that route, let's talk about the ISP West vent wing seal. This is a Type 3 vent wing seal. It's modeled after an NOS seal that we sacrificed to make this. And we make left and right hand sides. And the way you can tell it's an ISP West seal is it says ISP 311-837-625A. And that odd number at the end, 625A, that tells you that this is a left-hand side seal. So this is really, really easy to install. Basically, it's the same. There's a channel just like this. And this part right here, just this center section right here, fits into that channel. And all the other pieces, or all the other sections, like this guy, basically just fit around these pieces here. So that channel on the outside, this channel here, fits here. So this is simply, you want to make sure you line up this guy. You want to line up this right with the hole right there, right? And you can just stick this guy right in here like this. I kind of like to line it up a little bit. This opening here fits right around this guy. So once you have this in, you can pop this over like that. Let's just pop this guy like this, just for now. Pop this guy like this for now. And let's start installing this. So one thing to consider is you see this, there's a little channel here. Make sure your plastic piece is lined up. Make sure you're all lined up there. All right. Now, it's just a matter of putting this guy, this channel, or this section here into the actual channel of the vent wing frame itself. And it's very easy to do. You can see it down here. It always helps to have some tools. So you can pop this guy in. Sometimes you can actually pop this in with your fingers. Just depends. Sometimes it goes easy, sometimes it doesn't. Make sure you're not binding anywhere. This guy has to come up. There we go. This guy has to come up a little bit. So right now I'm just pushing into, oh, sorry for the shaky cam, pushing into the actual frame itself. So see, this is not set yet. We got a section here that needs to go under the flap seal. Let's just push that underneath. Okay, right like that. Okay. So all this is looking good, except for this corner right here. So we need to keep, this side is in, but this side is not in yet. You can see it, if I pull back just a little bit, you can see it still. See that? All right. Let's get this in. And you can also, you can push right in the center. You can hear it snap in. It's very easy to do. That's probably what I should have just done. But yeah, okay, cool. So pushing in the center right there definitely was the trick. You can go around this entire frame here. Just push right in the center. Right, that is looking, that's looking great. Awesome. Okay, so we have our vent wing seal installed. We have our flap seal installed. Everything is nice and tucked. See here at the bottom, nice and tucked. That is going to be a great fitting seal here. All right. So if you were to install this back with a rivet, basically this guy goes right in here like this. So yeah, one good point is to, double check everything, right? If something doesn't feel right or look right, double check. Might not be seated fully. There we go. Sorry for the shakes. Apologize. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, let's put this guy back in again. And if I had a rivet, I would put this in, but I don't, which would tighten that up. But yeah, that's basically it. Once you have this in, fits right back into the car, and you've got a new vent wing seal and flap seal. Awesome. You can see how the vent wing flap seals right there. This obviously needs to be pulled over a little bit, but yeah, awesome. That is how you install a vent wing seal. Hopefully yours goes a little bit easier than mine, but it wasn't too bad. Definitely got to make sure you have the right tools. These are always handy. These come from like Harbor Freight. These are nice, like just pry tools if you need them. And one of these tools helps you cut things at an angle, which is super nice. Nice clean cut. Yeah, and make sure you get the seal into the channel, and make sure you can, if you have to, push into the corners, and it should pop in. This one is actually harder than one I've done before, but I actually went not too bad. I'm pretty stoked on that. Cool. All right. Hopefully this helps you.